The massive chamber on Nexus Prime buzzed with tension as 12 different alien species gathered for the emergency session. Each delegate represented civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Their technologies advanced beyond what younger species could imagine. The hegemony leader, a towering creature with 4 arms and crystalline skin, stood at the center podium while holographic displays showed human colony ships spreading across star systems like wildfire. The humans have established 47 worlds in just 2 centuries, the hegemony leader announced, his voice echoing through translation devices. Their population grows faster than any species we have recorded. Their ships multiply like insects, and they adapt to environments that would kill most civilized beings. The Zalakian representative, a serpentine creature with glowing yellow eyes, hissed in agreement. They terraform dead worlds in decades. They build cities on planets with toxic atmospheres. They even colonize asteroids and space stations. This expansion must be stopped before it threatens our established territories. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiance, unaware that his fate was being decided light years away. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding the Outer Rim patrol fleet, but his eyes remained sharp as he watched the scanner displays. 3 years of peaceful exploration had made him comfortable with routine, but something felt different today. Admiral, we're picking up strange readings from the Kepler 442 system, reported Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from the sensor station. Long-range scans show artificial structures on the 3rd planet, but our charts mark it as uninhabited. Morrison moved to stand behind her chair, studying the data streams flowing across her screen. How old are these structures? Could be ruins from an extinct civilization. No, sir, the energy signatures are active. Someone is definitely living there. Rodriguez adjusted her controls, bringing the images into sharper focus. The architecture doesn't match any known human design, and we haven't detected any of our colony beacons in that system. The Admiral felt a familiar tension building in his chest. First contact with an alien species was always delicate, especially in contested space where territorial claims could spark conflicts. Set course for Kepler 442, but keep us at the edge of the system. I want full passive scans before we announce our presence. On Earth, President Lisa Carter sat in the Oval Office reviewing the latest colonial reports when her secretary entered with an urgent message. The woman's face was pale, and her hands trembled slightly as she handed over the encrypted datapad. Madam President, Ambassador Roy Phillips is requesting immediate communication from Nexus Prime. He says it's a matter of galactic security. Carter took the pad and activated the secure channel. Phillips appeared on the screen, his normally composed demeanor showing cracks of stress. Behind him, she could see the alien architecture of the council chambers, all flowing curves and impossible geometries that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Lisa, they've given us an ultimatum, Phillips said without preamble. The Galactic Council demands that humanity cease all expansion beyond our current 47 colonies. They want us to submit to their oversight and accept permanent boundaries. The president felt her jaw clench. What's their justification for this demand? They claim we're expanding too rapidly and pose a threat to galactic stability. They're giving us 30 standard days to comply, or they'll take military action to enforce the restrictions. Phillips glanced over his shoulder at the alien delegates filing out of the chamber. Lisa, I don't think they're bluffing. The military representatives were very specific about their fleet capabilities. Carter ended the transmission and immediately summoned her war council. Within an hour, General Ben Torres, Admiral Morrison via subspace communication, and Defense Secretary Kate Sullivan were gathered in the Situation Room. The holographic display showed human colonies scattered across the galaxy like small islands in a vast ocean. 47 worlds supporting nearly 2 billion colonists, Sullivan reported, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Our patrol fleets are spread thin, protecting trade routes and new settlements. If the Council attacks, we can't defend everything simultaneously. General Torres leaned forward, his scarred hands clasped on the table. Have we confirmed their military strength? Our intelligence on Council forces is limited to what they've shown us during peaceful encounters. That's the problem. Admiral Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system from the Defiance. We've been so focused on exploration and colonization that we haven't prepared for a major conflict. Our ships are designed for patrol and escort duties, not fleet engagements against unknown alien technology. President Carter studied the colonial map, noting how human settlements formed a rough sphere expanding outward from Earth. Each dot represented millions of people who had risked everything to build new lives among the stars. What do we know about Council military doctrine? Very little, Torres admitted. They've kept their fleets hidden behind their border systems. What intelligence we have suggests they rely on massive capital ships supported by smaller escort vessels, traditional formation fighting with overwhelming firepower. The room fell silent as everyone contemplated the implications. The Council controlled most of the galaxy's established trade routes and industrial centers. Their member species had been spacefaring for millennia, perfecting technologies that humans were only beginning to understand. There's something else, Admiral Morrison added from the outer rim. We just discovered an alien colony in the Kepler 442 system. Zelekian architecture heavily fortified. They're claiming territorial rights to a system we've had marked for colonization for 6 months. Carter felt the pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. The ultimatum wasn't just about human expansion. It was about control. The Council had spent thousands of years maintaining their grip on galactic civilization, and humanity's rapid growth threatened that stability. Options? She asked simply. Sullivan spoke first. We could accept their terms, consolidate our existing colonies and work within their system. It would mean abandoning our expansion plans, but it might prevent a war we're not prepared to fight. Torres shook his head. That's surrender, not compromise. Once we submit to their authority, they'll control every aspect of human development. Look at what happened to the Tau Centauri colonies when they accepted Council oversight 20 years ago. Their population growth stagnated, their technology development slowed, and now they're completely dependent on Council trade. The General's right, Morrison agreed. I've studied the historical data on Council member species. Every younger civilization that joined their system eventually lost their edge, their drive to explore and grow. They become comfortable, satisfied with what they have instead of reaching for what they could achieve. President Carter stood and walked to the window overlooking the Capitol. Outside, she could see the launch trails of ships heading to the orbital stations, carrying supplies and personnel to support the colonial effort. Each launch represented humanity's dream of spreading among the stars, of building something greater than what Earth alone could offer. Gentlemen, Secretary Sullivan, she said finally, I've made my decision. We will not submit to Council authority. If they want to limit human expansion, they'll have to fight for it. The room erupted in discussion as military officers began calculating fleet strengths and defensive strategies. But Carter's mind was already moving beyond tactics and logistics to the fundamental question that would define humanity's future. Would they remain free to grow and explore, or accept the comfortable cage the Council offered? Admiral Morrison's voice cut through the debate from the communication system. Madam President, we're detecting massive energy signatures jumping into the new Denver system. Council warships, at least 20 vessels. They're not waiting for our answer to the ultimatum. The war had begun. Captain Amy Rodriguez felt her stomach drop as the sensor readings flooded her screen aboard the patrol ship, Denver Guardian. 20 massive Council warships had appeared at the edge of the new Denver system, their hulls gleaming like dark metal against the stars. Each vessel was 3 times larger than her heaviest cruiser, bristling with weapon ports that could turn her small defense fleet into scrap metal within minutes. All ships. This is Rodriguez, she broadcast to her 8-ship squadron. Form defensive pattern Alpha around the colony. Civilian evacuation protocols are now in effect. On the surface of New Denver, Colony Administrator Peter Clark watched the emergency broadcasts with growing dread. His communications center buzzed with panicked reports from mining stations, agricultural domes, and residential districts scattered across the planet's 3 continents. 2 million colonists called New Denver home, and most of them had never seen a warship except in training videos. Peter, we need more time, pleaded Dr. Sandra Hayes from the main hospital complex. We can't move the critical care patients to the underground shelters in less than 4 hours. The medical equipment alone weighs tons. Clark gripped the edge of his command console, watching the tactical display show red dots approaching his world like a plague of locusts. Sandra, you have 2 hours maximum. After that, anyone still on the surface is on their own. The first Council ships entered weapons range without any attempt at communication. Captain Rodriguez had hoped for some kind of warning, a demand for surrender, anything that might buy time for the evacuation. Instead, the alien vessel simply opened fire with concentrated energy beams that cut through her lead destroyer, like it was made of paper. Evasive maneuvers, Rodriguez shouted as her ship bucked under the impact of near misses. Danny, get us behind that asteroid cluster. Helen, coordinate with the orbital platforms and give me everything they've got. Lieutenant Danny Wright pushed his engines past their safety limits, diving toward the cover of New Denver's small asteroid belt. His ship Frontier Hope shook violently as enemy fire tracked their movement. But the smaller human vessels could turn and accelerate, faster than the massive Council dreadnoughts. Commander, Helen Foster commanded the orbital defense, platforms that protected New Denver's space elevators and industrial stations. Her 12 automated weapon platforms represented the colony's heaviest firepower, but they were designed to stop pirates and raiders, not a full military invasion. Missile pods 1 through 6, target the lead Council ship, Foster ordered from her command center buried deep inside the largest platform. Fire in sequence 30-second intervals. Make them think about what they're doing here. The Council fleet commander aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion watched the human defensive attempts with something approaching amusement. These young species always tried to fight even when facing hopeless odds. It would be educational to demonstrate the futility of resistance before accepting their inevitable surrender. Return fire on those weapon platforms. The hegemony commander ordered his gunnery crews. Precision strikes only. We want to disable their defenses, not destroy everything. The Council still hopes these humans can be brought into line without complete extermination. The battle became a deadly dance between overwhelming firepower and desperate mobility. Captain Rodriguez split her remaining 7 ships into 3 groups, using hit-and-run tactics to draw fire away from the evacuation transports lifting off from the planet's surface. Each attack run cost her ships and crew, but every minute bought time for more civilians to reach the underground shelters. Lieutenant Wright's destroyer took a direct hit that vaporized his rear engine section, but he kept fighting with attitude thrusters and emergency power. Rodriguez, my ship is done for, but I can still ram that cruiser if you can give me a clear approach vector. Negative. Danny, get to the escape pods and live to fight another day. With respect, Captain, I didn't come out here to run away from bullies. Wright aimed his crippled ship at the nearest Council vessel and pushed his remaining engines to maximum power. The collision turned both ships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma, but it proved something important to the watching alien fleet. Commander Foster witnessed Wright's sacrifice from her command platform and felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. These aliens had come to her home system without warning, attacked without provocation, and now they would learn what humans did to uninvited guests. All platforms. Concentrate fire on the flagship. I don't care if we can't penetrate their shields. Make them notice us. The combined missile barrage from 12 defense platforms struck the Council flagship like an angry swarm. The alien shields absorbed the impacts without visible damage, but the psychological effect on both sides was significant. The humans fought with a ferocity that surprised the Council commanders, while the colonists watching from their shelters saw their defenders refusing to surrender, despite impossible odds. On the planet's surface, Peter Clark coordinated the evacuation from his emergency bunker. Status reports flowed in from across the 3 continents as transport ships ferried civilians to the deep shelters that had been excavated during the colony's early years. The underground facilities could house the entire population for months if necessary, but only if they could reach them in time. Sector 7 reports heavy casualties from orbital bombardment, announced his aide Jenny Martinez. The agricultural domes took direct hits and the residential towers are collapsing. Clark felt each loss like a personal failure, but he forced himself to focus on the bigger picture. Redirect evacuation routes around the damaged sectors. And Jenny, send word to Earth through the quantum communication array. Tell them New Denver fought, but we're going to lose. The message traveled instantly across the galaxy to Earth, where President Lisa Carter received it in the Situation Room. The holographic display showed the tactical situation in real time. Human ships dying one by one while desperately protecting evacuation ships. Orbital platforms going dark as Council fire overwhelmed their defenses, and millions of colonists hiding in underground shelters while their world burned above them. How long can they hold out? Carter asked Admiral Morrison, whose face appeared on the main screen from his flagship racing toward the battle. Based on current casualty rates, maybe 6 more hours. Morrison replied grimly. Rodriguez is doing everything right, but she's outnumbered 20-1 by ships that outclass her vessels in every category. General Torres studied the tactical data flowing in from New Denver. Their strategy is working, though. Look at the council formation. They're staying in tight defensive clusters instead of spreading out to maximize their firepower advantage. Our people are making them cautious. Defense Secretary Sullivan leaned forward in her chair. Cautious enough to make mistakes? Maybe. Rodriguez has already proven that human ships can hurt council vessels if we're willing to sacrifice everything for a single attack run. The question is whether we can turn that tactical advantage into something larger. Back at New Denver, Captain Rodriguez made the hardest decision of her military career. Only 3 of her original 8 ships remained operational, and the Council fleet was moving into position for a final assault on the orbital platforms. The evacuation transports had successfully carried most of the civilian population to safety, but thousands of people remained trapped in the outer settlements. All ships. This is Rodriguez. We're going to ram the Council flagship. Full power, no survivors expected. For New Denver and for humanity. Her 3 remaining destroyers accelerated directly toward the massive alien dreadnought, their crews knowing they would never see home again. The Council commander, finally recognizing the full extent of human determination, ordered his escorts to intercept the suicide attack. But it was too late. The triple collision destroyed both the human ships and severely damaged the Council flagship, forcing the alien fleet to withdraw to a safer distance. In the sudden quiet that followed, Peter Clark's voice echoed across the communication networks of human space. This is New Denver Control to all human colonies and Earth Command. The Council attacked us without warning or mercy. We fought them with everything we had and we made them bleed. Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them we made the bastards pay for every meter of our sky. The Battle of New Denver was over, but the war for humanity's future had just begun. President Lisa Carter stood before the emergency session of the Colonial Assembly, her face grim as she watched representatives from 47 worlds debate humanity's response to the attack on New Denver. The holographic display showed burning cities and refugee camps, but also something else that surprised the alien observers monitoring the broadcasts. Anger instead of fear. The Council made their position clear at New Denver, Carter announced to the assembled delegates. They believe humanity will surrender when faced with superior firepower. They believe we'll accept their cage rather than fight for our freedom. Today we prove them wrong. The President activated Article 7 of the Colonial Charter, a provision that had never been used in the 2 centuries since humanity left Earth. Every human settlement, military or civilian, was now part of a unified war effort. Cargo ships would carry weapons instead of trade goods. Mining platforms would forge armor plating instead of consumer products. Even luxury cruise liners would be converted into troop transports. Admiral Jake Morrison received the mobilization order while his fleet raced toward the New Denver system. The tactical reports from Captain Rodriguez's final battle had reached him hours ago, along with detailed sensor readings that revealed crucial information about Council military capabilities. Their ships were powerful but slow to turn. Their formation tactics relied on overwhelming firepower, rather than maneuverability. All ship commanders, this is Morrison, he broadcast to his 20-vessel fleet. We're not going to fight them the way they expect. Their ships are built for traditional fleet engagements where both sides line up and pound each other until someone breaks. We're going to show them what happens when humans get creative. The shipyards above Earth worked around the clock, as Defense Secretary Kate Sullivan coordinated the largest military buildup in human history. Instead of trying to match the Council's massive dreadnoughts, human engineers focused on building smaller, faster vessels that could be constructed quickly and cheaply. Each ship carried a volunteer crew who understood they might not survive their first battle. Chief Engineer Tony Martinez reviewed the production schedules with growing amazement. Lisa, we're launching 3 new ships every day from Earth alone. The colonial yards are matching that production rate. In 6 months, we'll have more hulls in space than the entire Council fleet. Carter nodded, studying the industrial reports flowing in from across human space. Numbers won't be enough against their technology advantage. What about the new tactics Morrison is developing? He calls it swarm and sting, Martinez replied. Small groups of ships attack in waves, with each wave learning from the mistakes of the previous one. The survivors pass information to the next group, who refine the approach until they find a weakness. Admiral Morrison put the new doctrine to its first major test at the Battle of Centauri Gate, where a Council patrol fleet guarded one of the main hyperspace routes between human and alien space. His force of 30 small cruisers faced 8 Council heavy destroyers, ships individually more powerful than anything humans had built. First wave, begin your attack run, Morrison ordered from his command ship. Remember, your job is to learn, not to win. Make them show us how they fight. Captain Danny Wright commanded the lead squadron of 6 ships. His previous vessel had been destroyed at New Denver, but he'd managed to escape in a life pod and immediately requested reassignment to a new ship. The loss of his original crew still haunted him, but it had also taught him something valuable about Council weapons and tactics. They focus fire on the largest threat first, Wright reported as his ships danced around the alien formation. Their targeting computers have trouble tracking multiple small targets moving in unpredictable patterns. The first wave lost 3 ships but gathered crucial intelligence about Council defensive procedures. The second wave, led by Commander Helen Foster in her newly constructed destroyer, used that information to approach from unexpected angles and strike at vulnerable points in the alien formation. Target their sensor arrays, Foster ordered her squadron. Blind them before they can coordinate their fire. The human ships darted between the Council vessels like angry wasps, their weapons too small to penetrate alien armor, but perfectly capable of destroying external equipment. Communication antennas, sensor dishes, and shield projectors became priority targets as the humans systematically degraded their enemies' capabilities. General Ben Torres watched the battle unfold from Earth Command, noting how the Council ships struggled to adapt to the chaotic human tactics. They're trained to fight other civilized species, he observed to President Carter. Naval battles with rules of engagement and predictable strategies. We're fighting like pirates, and they don't know how to respond. The third wave delivered the killing blow at Centauri Gate. Commander Alex Thompson led 12 ships in a coordinated ramming attack against the Council flagship. But instead of sacrificing themselves, the human vessels released their payloads at the last second and pulled away. Dozens of antimatter charges detonated against the alien ship's hull, overwhelming its shields and cracking its armor. Council fleet is withdrawing, Thompson reported with satisfaction. Repeat. Enemy fleet is in full retreat from Centauri Gate. We control the hyperspace route. The victory sent shockwaves through both human and Council territories. For the first time in the war, human forces had defeated a Council fleet in open battle without losing every ship in the process. The news spread quickly through the quantum communication networks, reaching every human colony within hours. On the occupied world of New Denver, Resistance leader Jerry Baker received the news while hiding in the underground tunnels beneath the colonial capital. The Council occupation forces had established martial law, but they couldn't control an entire planet with just 3 ships and a few thousand ground troops. Pass the word to all resistance cells, Baker told his lieutenants. Centauri Gate proves the Council can be beaten. Every act of sabotage, every ambush, every refusal to cooperate makes their occupation more expensive. We're going to make them regret ever coming to our world. The underground fighters began a campaign of systematic harassment against the Council garrison. Supply convoys disappeared in the wilderness. Communication towers suffered mysterious explosions. Colonial administrators who collaborated with the occupiers found their homes surrounded by angry crowds. Admiral Morrison used the breathing space after Centauri Gate to develop new variations of swarm tactics. Human ships began operating in larger groups, with dozens of vessels coordinating their attacks through quantum communication links. The Council found themselves facing an enemy that learned from every encounter and shared that knowledge instantly across their entire fleet. The Battle of Wolf 359 became Morrison's masterpiece of the new warfare. Facing a Council battle group of 15 heavy cruisers, he deployed 60 human ships in a complex pattern that confused alien targeting systems. The human vessels moved like a school of fish, individual ships breaking away to attack and then rejoining the formation before the Council could respond effectively. All ships, implement Morrison Maneuver 7, the Admiral commanded as his fleet surrounded the alien formation. Target selection is weapons-free. Make every shot count. The human ships attacked from every direction simultaneously, their combined firepower overwhelming the Council's defensive capabilities. When individual alien vessels tried to break away from their formation, human pursuit groups harried them with hit-and-run attacks until they were forced to rejoin their increasingly desperate fleet. Commander Lisa Chang delivered the final blow, leading a squadron of converted cargo ships loaded with mining explosives directly into the Council formation. The detonations destroyed 4 alien cruisers and damaged 6 others, forcing the surviving vessels to retreat in complete disorder. Wolf 359 is ours, Morrison reported to Earth Command. Council losses: 11 ships destroyed, 4 damaged. Human losses: 18 ships destroyed, 34 damaged. We're winning, but the price is still high. President Carter received the victory report with mixed emotions. Every human ship lost represented dozens of trained crew members who would never see home again. But the strategic implications were clear. Human tactics were proving effective against Council technology, and the industrial capacity of 47 worlds was beginning to tip the balance of the war. "What's our next target?" she asked Admiral Morrison during their secure communication link. "The Council forward base at Kepler Station," Morrison replied. "If we can capture their command facilities intact, we might learn enough about their strategic plans to end this war before it destroys everything we've built." Among the stars, the human fleet began its approach toward the most heavily defended Council position in human space, carrying with it the hopes and fury of an entire species that refused to surrender their dreams. The Council's response to their defeats at Centauri Gate and Wolf 359 came in the form of 20 massive warships appearing at the edge of human space, each one larger than anything humanity had encountered before. Leading this new fleet was the legendary Zalakian warlord Krextar, commander of the Apex Guard units that had conquered entire star systems without losing a single battle in 3,000 years of warfare. Krextar stood on the bridge of his flagship Eternal Vengeance, his serpentine form coiled around a command throne designed for his species. His yellow eyes studied the tactical displays showing human ship movements with the patience of a predator who had never known defeat. These young mammals had proven more troublesome than expected, but they would learn what happened when civilized species challenged the established order. "Deploy the Apex Guard to all contested systems," Krextar ordered his fleet commanders. "These humans fight like clever animals, but they have never faced warriors bred for conquest. Show them the difference between desperate courage and professional superiority." Admiral Jake Morrison received the intelligence reports about the new Council forces while planning the assault on Kepler Station. The enemy base controlled hyperspace routes throughout the sector and served as a staging point for Council operations in human space. Capturing it would require every ship and crew member he could gather, but the appearance of elite enemy units changed everything. "We need our own elite forces," Morrison told General Ben Torres during their strategic conference. "The standard fleet tactics that work against regular Council ships won't be enough against their best warriors." Torres had already begun organizing humanity's response to the escalating threat. "I'm forming the Human Strike Corps from volunteers with combat experience. Enhanced physical conditioning, experimental weapons, powered armor systems based on captured Council technology. Colonel Sam Hayes will command the initial units." Colonel Sam Hayes stood before 300 volunteers in the training facility on Luna, men and women who had survived battles with Council forces and requested assignment to the most dangerous missions humanity could offer. Each volunteer understood they were joining a unit with no guarantee of survival, but their faces showed determination rather than fear. "The Council thinks they're sending their best against us," Hayes addressed her new command. "Elite warriors who've spent centuries perfecting the art of conquest. They're about to discover what humans do when we stop holding back." The first test of the Strike Corps came during the liberation of New Denver, where Council occupation forces had turned the colonial capital into a fortress. The surviving population lived under strict martial law while alien administrators stripped the planet of its resources to support the war effort. Hayes led her enhanced soldiers through the underground tunnel, networks that resistance leader Jerry Baker's fighters had expanded during months of guerrilla warfare. The powered armor suits allowed her troops to move quickly through spaces too small for Council soldiers, while their enhanced reflexes gave them advantages in close combat. "Baker, we're in position beneath the command center," Hayes reported through her suit's communication system. Your people ready to create the distraction we discussed? Baker's resistance fighters had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Every supply depot, communication array, and patrol checkpoint in the city is about to have a very bad day. You'll have 15 minutes before they realize the real attack is coming from below. The simultaneous explosions across New Denver's capital drew Council forces away from their central command post just as Hayes and her strike corps emerged from the tunnels. The enhanced humans moved through the alien facility like lethal shadows, their advanced weapons cutting through Council defenses with ruthless efficiency. Dr. Maria Gonzalez accompanied the assault team as their intelligence specialist, tasked with extracting data from captured Council computers. What she found in the command center's archives changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemies. Sam, you need to see this. Gonzalez called Hayes to the main data terminal. These aren't just military records. They're historical archives going back thousands of years. The files revealed the true nature of the Galactic Council's relationship with younger species. Every civilization that had shown potential for rapid growth and expansion had been systematically destroyed or enslaved. The Tau Centauri colonies were just the most recent example of species that had been broken by Council control. They're not trying to maintain peace, Gonzalez continued, her voice filled with growing horror. They're eliminating competition. Any species that might challenge their dominance gets crushed before they can become a threat. Hayes immediately transmitted the discovery to Earth Command. While her forces secured the rest of the Council facility, the revelation that humanity faced extinction rather than mere subjugation spread through human space within hours, transforming a territorial conflict into an existential struggle for survival. President Lisa Carter convened an emergency session of the Colonial Assembly after reviewing Gonzalez's intelligence findings. The representatives from 47 worlds listened in, stunned silence as she read excerpts from the Council archives describing the deliberate genocide of 17 different species over the past 5,000 years. The Rigel Confederacy was destroyed because they developed faster than light travel too quickly, Carter reported. The Vega Republic was eliminated because their population growth threatened Council resource allocation models. The Deneb Alliance was exterminated because they refused to limit their colonial expansion. The room erupted in angry voices as representatives demanded immediate military action against the Council worlds. But Carter raised her hand for silence, her expression grave as she continued reading from the captured files. There's more. The Council is planning a final assault on Earth itself, a fleet of 200 ships carrying enough firepower to crack continents. They call it the Purification Fleet, and it launches in 60 standard days. Admiral Morrison's assault on Kepler Station became humanity's most desperate gamble as news of the approaching superfleet reached his forces. The Council base was defended by 30 warships and automated defense platforms that could destroy his entire fleet. But the intelligence value of the facility made the risk worthwhile. All ships, this is Morrison. We're going in fast and hard, no holding back. Captain Rodriguez, take your squadron through the asteroid field and hit their left flank. Commander Foster, your people get the defense platforms. Everyone else, follow me straight at their main formation. The Battle of Kepler Station became the bloodiest engagement of the war, as human ships threw themselves against Council defenses with suicidal determination. Captain Amy Rodriguez led her squadron through a maze of space debris, using the asteroids as cover while her ships delivered precision strikes against enemy positions. Commander Helen Foster coordinated the assault on the automated defense platforms, her ships darting between massive weapon emplacements that tracked their movements with mechanical precision. Each platform required multiple attack runs to destroy, and Foster lost half her squadron before the last gun fell silent. Morrison himself led the main assault against the Council fleet, defending the station, his flagship trading devastating blows with Krextar's personal escort vessels. The alien warriors fought with the skill of centuries of experience, but human determination proved equal to their expertise. Target their command ship, Morrison ordered as his fleet closed to point-blank range. Everything we have, concentrated fire. Break their coordination and the rest will follow. The combined firepower of 40 human ships overwhelmed the Council flagship's defenses, forcing Krextar to withdraw his surviving vessels while the humans claimed the station. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 37 ships destroyed and thousands of crew members lost. In the captured command center, Admiral Morrison stood beside Dr. Gonzalez as she downloaded the complete Council strategic database. The information contained detailed plans for the Purification Fleet's assault on Earth, including attack vectors, target priorities, and timetables. "How long do we have?" Morrison asked, studying the enemy fleet compositions. 58 days, Gonzalez replied. 200 ships, including their most powerful dreadnoughts. "They're not planning to occupy Earth, Jake. They're planning to destroy it completely." Morrison activated his communication link to Earth Command, his face grim as he prepared to deliver news that would determine humanity's fate. "Madam President, we've captured Kepler Station and obtained complete intelligence on the Council's final offensive. I'm transmitting the data now, but I'll give you the summary. They're coming to end us, and we have less than 2 months to prepare." President Carter received the transmission in the Situation Room, surrounded by her military commanders and civilian advisors. The holographic displays showed the approaching enemy fleet in all its terrifying magnitude, but also revealed something else that gave her hope: the location of every Council world and military base in the galaxy. "If they want to destroy Earth," Carter announced to her staff, "then we'll have to destroy them first. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring this war to their doorstep." The Council's Purification Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, like a dark cloud of death. 200 warships arranged in perfect formation around the massive flagship Eternity's End. The ancient vessel stretched over 10 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull inscribed with the names of extinct civilizations that had dared to challenge Council authority over the millennia. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the enemy fleet's approach from the bridge of his new flagship Retribution, surrounded by the largest military force in human history. Every shipyard in human space had worked without rest for 58 days, producing vessels of every size and configuration. Military cruisers flew alongside converted cargo haulers, luxury yachts bristled with improvised weapons, and even mining platforms had been equipped for combat. "Final count, Admiral," reported Captain Amy Rodriguez from her position at the tactical station. "We have 837 vessels ready for battle, plus civilian support ships carrying ammunition and supplies." Morrison nodded grimly as he studied the deployment patterns on his holographic display. The human fleet looked impressive on paper, but most of those ships were improvised warships crewed by volunteers with minimal combat training. Against the Council's professional military, it would come down to determination versus experience. "Signal the fleet," Morrison commanded. "All ships are to engage at maximum range and maintain mobility. Don't let them pin us down in a static battle." President Lisa Carter stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the tactical displays that showed every human ship preparing for the battle that would determine their species' fate. Around her, the leaders of 47 worlds waited for her final words before the shooting began. "Citizens of Earth and the colonies," Carter broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy, "today we face an enemy that wants to erase us from existence simply because we refuse to accept limitations. They believe superior technology guarantees victory, but they're about to learn what humans do when fighting for everything we hold dear." The first engagement began at the orbit of Jupiter, where Captain Rick Murphy led the outer perimeter defense with 60 converted mining ships and patrol vessels. His ragtag fleet couldn't stop the Council advance, but they could make the aliens pay for every kilometer of space. "All ships, scatter formation," Murphy ordered, as the Council vanguard opened fire. "Hit them from every angle and fall back toward the inner system. Make them chase us through our territory." Murphy's miners and patrol crews fought with desperate courage, using Jupiter's moons as cover while they launched guerrilla attacks against the advancing enemy. The Galilean moons became a maze of ambush points where human ships darted out to strike at Council formations before disappearing back into the shadows. Factory worker Linda Shaw commanded a converted orbital manufacturing station that had been equipped with industrial lasers powerful enough to cut through starship hulls. Her crew of civilian volunteers had no military training, but they understood machinery and how to make it work under impossible conditions. "Target that Council cruiser," Shaw ordered her gunners. "Same technique we used to slice asteroid cores. Just aim for their engine section instead of mineral deposits." The improvised weapon sliced through the alien ship's rear armor, causing a cascade failure that left the vessel drifting helplessly. Shaw's station crew cheered as they swung their platform toward the next target, their industrial background proving surprisingly useful in ship-to-ship combat. As the Council fleet pushed deeper into the solar system, They encountered resistance from unexpected sources. Communication relay operator Nancy Chen, barely 16 years old, coordinated defensive networks from a hidden facility on Luna while her parents fought with the main fleet. Her youthful expertise with quantum communication systems allowed human forces to maintain perfect coordination despite the chaos of battle. Admiral Morrison, this is Luna Control, Chen reported during the height of the fighting. Council forces are moving to flank your position. Suggest vector adjustment to bearing 27 Mark IV to maintain formation integrity. Morrison followed the teenager's advice, marveling at how even the youngest humans contributed to the war effort, with skills their enemies couldn't match. The Council had superior ships and weapons, but they lacked the improvisation and adaptability that made humanity dangerous. The decisive moment came when the Council fleet reached Earth's orbit and prepared to begin the planetary bombardment that would end human civilization. The alien commander aboard Eternity's End expected to find a broken enemy ready to surrender, but instead discovered every remaining human ship positioning themselves between the Council fleet and their homeworld. This is Admiral Morrison to all human forces, the Admiral broadcast on open channels that reached every ship in the battle. They want to destroy our home, but they'll have to go through us first. Every ship, every crew, every person who can hold a weapon. This is our moment. President Carter herself climbed into the cockpit of a fighter launched from Earth's surface, leading a wing of atmospheric craft into the orbital battle. The sight of their president joining the fight sent a surge of inspiration through the human fleet. As civilian crews and military personnel alike realized that everyone was risking everything for their shared future. All wings, form up on me, Carter commanded as her fighter squadron accelerated toward the nearest Council ship. If we're going to die today, let's make sure they remember us. The climactic battle became a swirling melee as 800 human ships engaged 200 Council vessels in close combat above Earth. The alien superior firepower was neutralized by the sheer number of targets and the humans' willingness to sacrifice individual ships for tactical advantage. Mechanic Bobby Taylor rammed his converted cargo hauler into the side of a Council destroyer, the collision tearing both vessels apart, but creating an opening for 3 human cruisers to attack the enemy formation's flank. Teacher Greg Williams led his improvised crew in a suicide run against the Council flagship's weapon arrays, disabling several major gun turrets before his ship disintegrated under enemy fire. General Ben Torres coordinated the assault from his command ship, watching as human courage gradually overwhelmed alien technology. All Strike Force units execute boarding operations on damaged enemy vessels. Colonel Hayes, take your people and capture that command ship intact. Colonel Sam Hayes led her enhanced soldiers through the chaos of battle, using powered armor and superior training to board Council vessels and fight the enemy face-to-face in their own corridors. The aliens had never encountered humans in personal combat, and their shock at human ferocity proved as valuable as any weapon. The turning point came when Hayes and her strike corps reached the bridge of Eternity's End, fighting through corridors filled with the Council's most elite warriors. The Zelakian commander who had ordered humanity's extermination found himself facing Colonel Hayes in single combat, his ancient confidence shattered by the determination in her eyes. Your species should have accepted our guidance, the alien commander hissed as Hayes advanced with her powered armor sparking from battle damage. We offered you a place in our ordered galaxy. Hayes raised her weapon, her voice steady despite the exhaustion of hours of continuous fighting. We don't want your place. We'll make our own. The death of the Council's supreme commander broke the enemy fleet's coordination, just as human reinforcements arrived from the outer colonies. Fresh ships led by Admiral Morrison's tactical reserves struck the confused alien formation, turning an orderly retreat into a complete rout. As the surviving Council ships fled toward the edge of the solar system, President Carter's voice echoed across human space from her fighter cockpit. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, we have won. The Council fleet is in retreat, and humanity remains free. The aftermath of the Battle of Earth saw humanity emerge as the dominant power in their region of the galaxy, but Admiral Morrison's final log entry reflected the cost of that victory. Thousands of ships had been destroyed, hundreds of thousands of people had died, and entire colonies bore the scars of the conflict. We didn't choose this war, Morrison recorded as he surveyed the wreckage floating in Earth's orbit. But when the Council forced us to fight for our right to exist, We answered with everything we had. Now we have a responsibility to ensure that no other species faces the same choice between extinction and surrender. The Galactic Council's age of dominance was over, replaced by a new alliance where species were judged not by their age or power, but by their willingness to grow and defend their right to shape their own destiny among the stars.